Is it just me, or did they not choose the most favorable picture for this guy? I mean, you can put George Soros next to him, and George would look less ghoulish by comparison. Usually, when you find articles with these types of pictures, you know that the reporter just hates the person. Right. I want to talk a little bit about the NBA controversy because I didn't talk about it. Being a gamer, I talk more about Blizzard. A lot of people have been wondering why is it that the NBA is bowing to China? Like, is American basketball so famous with the Chinese? When they get home and they work on their social credits, do they have to watch a little bit of American basketball? And the answer is no. It's actually more sinister than you think. It's the shoe companies. The shoe companies are the ones that are running the NBA. The NBA makes a lot of money from selling shoes, and all the shoe company prefer to do business in China because it's cheap labor. This is what you understand by corporations. If you ask a corporation what do you want, the answer is always going to be cheap labor. This is why corporations are very woke, and they're like, oh, my borders, open the borders, you're hurting the brown people. And at the same time, they go to China where they have either sweatshop with children working for their shoes, or they have prisoners, even political convicted prisoners, making cheap shoes for them. It's all about cheap labor. If they can afford managing to spend like 5 cents on the hour for a person to do their shoes, they would definitely be in favor of that. And then they can sell those very cheaply made shoes to some American bourgeoisie twat so that they can march down the streets and protest capitalism. It's really funny if you think about it. It's why a lot of NBA players go to China after the competition is over, in order to try to make a name for themselves there and try to sell more shoes. They're owned by the shoe company now. When it comes to Chinese censorship, the reason that a lot of people didn't see it, I guess, is because, at least in the video game industry, I don't know how it's with the NBA, but in the video game industry, the censorship, from what I spoke with the devs, it started very easily. It's like, okay, you want to sell to China, well, you need to remove this skeleton here and there, you need to make sure there's no blood, just cover up that titty. And funnily enough, like, Chinese censorship was less oppressive than Western censorship. Now, Western censorship doesn't come from the government, it comes from the gatekeepers, the video game journalists, and the couple of weirdos on Reset Era, which are able to make PR shitstorms for corporations. And there are Japanese companies that outright said they're not going to sell a DLC, or they're not going to sell this type of game into the West because of the censors. And if you look at what they want, like what they expect, it's not just, cover a skeleton here and there. They're like, in the case of Days Gone, they hired three female game developers in order to create a character called Jade, which at one point in the game is captured and you have to free her. And Anita Sarkeesian raised a PR shitstorm saying that, well, this is not okay because this is disempowering towards women, this is sexist, misogynistic. And, the company which tried to raise their brand all of a sudden are attacked by a couple of weirdos, and they get this PR damage. Now, other things to worry about when you try to push a product on the West, it's the opinions of your developers on Twitter, who you donate money to. Like the vice president of Marvel came under fire because he decided to donate money to a Trump charity, which was for US veterans. And that happened a couple of years ago during the last elections. So on the West, censorship is day-to-day life. And I think for some of these companies, they genuinely didn't mind like working for a different censoria system, which at first glance seemed to be not as restrictive as the one in the US. Like they don't care what people say on Twitter. They don't care what developers think. They don't care what people's politics towards gay marriages. They just wanted you to remove a skeleton and make sure that there isn't that much blood in your video game. And I guess for the NBA, the censorship was probably non-existent. Like they didn't have to change anything. And it's only when this Hong Kong situation arises that people realize that, well, this censorious system is just as, if not even more censorious than the one in the United States. And you have to play ball if you want to make money. And now all these companies are knee deep invested into making money from China that it's very difficult for them to pull back. And you have the funny thing where a company can just claim they're woke and they're progressive and they hate fascism and they hate Donald Trump. And they have to now back it up because China is, for most parts, an ethno state that is a fascist regime focused on promoting Chinese supremacy. And it's kind of hard to advocate. It's like, well, yeah, we're going to criticize America, but at the same time, we're also going to defend China above all. Yeah, it's very difficult. Like, it leads to funny things where I saw Blizzard banning people on their forums for 1,000 years. And it's like, well, Blizzard, so are you saying that China is going to be the new Reich for 1,000 years? Like, what are you saying with that? That's a big yikes from me. But all in all, what this Hong Kong situation did was to wake people up about how many companies are involved in China and how many companies are being hypocritical because they say one thing in the Western market and they do another thing in the China market. It's one of the reasons you see a lot of TV shows nowadays making absolutely sure that there's at least one gay person in their TV show. It's getting to the point where, in my opinion, there's more gay people on TV than there are in real life. But if you look at movies, Hollywood movies, there's almost no gay people at all in any movie. Name me a blockbuster Hollywood movie that had gay people in it. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are a couple, but if I were to make a game where you tell me a TV show with gay characters and I give you a Hollywood movie with gay characters, I'm pretty sure I would lose. And the reason for this is China. Like, China is censorious, they are communistic, but they have different moralities than the West. They don't want any sort of negative speech towards China or its leaders. They want at least one Chinese actor in your movie. They want at least one scene from the movie to take place in a Chinese city. And when it comes to politics, they don't want any gay people. They don't want any LGBT propaganda. They don't have time for that nonsense. Okay, they're busy being communists, and communists straighten people up. If you think gay conversion therapy doesn't exist, then look at China. You know, before you have Soldier 76 and Tracer, and from League of Legends you have Nico. They're all gay characters, and then they go into China, and the government does the gay conversion therapy, and they're all straight in China. There is no gayness there. No, none whatsoever. And it's the same with Hollywood movies. You're not allowed to have certain topics and be progressive, which is why this is a great opportunity for everyone that is sick and tired of these woke companies that think in order to fight for gay rights, all you need to do is to do a single tweet or to virtue signal. It is time to make sure that they follow what they have to say. Constantly ask them, what do you think about China? What do you think about how China treats its gay people? Blah, 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 blah. And you'll see how they start banning you from the forums or try to avoid the issue. Would be nice if some people would actually go in front of an HQ, headquarters of these companies with plaques and start protesting. That would be lovely. It's going to happen at BlizzCon. Can't wait. Can't wait to see where that goes. But yeah, I mean, you know, all these people that constantly say, oh, we want to be a worldwide corporation. We want to be a corporation of the world. It's like, yeah, the world isn't progressive. In fact, besides the West, the world is highly conservative. India is very conservative. The Middle East is conservative. China is incredibly conservative. The only places where you can say that they're more progressive might be Japan, and even that is to an extent, and maybe South Korea. And then you have like English-speaking language nations or nations that have been colonized by England, and you know these are the more progressive places. But out there, the world is a very conservative place. And if you want to make business and be a world company with no borders, you gotta be conservative. Be conservative. You're not going to make money if you're being progressive. So you need to push these companies to the wall and make sure that they make a choice. Either they just want to sell a product, or they want to be a political entity that has aspirations and goals and lectures people and tells people how to behave. In which case, they need to pick and choose which part of the world they are more affiliated with, the LGBT friendly, rainbow colored West, or the more conservative other places of the world. I'm pretty sure I know where they are going to choose. They're going to choose the ones that make more money, and it seems the conservative places, unfortunately, make more money. I think it's a similar problem with YouTube. I might be wrong on this, but YouTube constantly talks about being LGBT friendly, and I generally think they want to be LGBT friendly. Like you look at who they promote as creators and who gets to be on the top page. It's just like a diversity bomb, you can call it. They just can't stop talking. Oh, this creator is gay. You need to watch it. This is a gay creator. Oh, this creator is black. Did you know this creator is black? You need to watch him. That's pretty much how YouTube advertises itself. And I generally think that this is what they want. But they also hire moderators from more conservative countries, like India, for example. And these are the people that look at the monetization options and they go like, well, to me this is very offensive. Because what's offensive for the West isn't offensive for India and vice versa. So you end up with the trouble where you're involved in a scandal, people showing it's like, look, any LGBT word or phrase or anything like that gets banned right away on YouTube. Why is this happening? It's like, well, because the AI is learning from the people you're hiring, and you want to hire cheap labor, which happens to be from other more impoverished places on the world. So there you go. That's what you ended up with. Anyway, let me know what you think, and remember, don't buy shoes made in China.